Hello, Shortcuts. This is list 2 for Wednesday, March 27th. Price list will go out at 9 p.m. Sydney time sharp. If you would like to be on the email list to receive the pricing for this list of records, email me at shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. This is a diverse list. We have pop, we have funk, we have jazz, we have exotica, we have folk, and we most certainly have reggae. So let's get into it. For those of you who haven't watched it, the first list is a whole bunch of specials from Vinyl Me Please. This selection is UK, Brazilian, Jamaican, and Japanese. So there you go. All right, I didn't know where to start. And you know what? I'm just going to go with this. Bunky Green, My Babe. So why did I go with this? Well, firstly, have a look at who plays on this record. Donald Byrd and Wynton Kelly, as well as Jimmy Cobb. It's got a beautiful gatefold. Look at that. And for those of you who are Shortcuts for a while, listening notes by Leonard Feather, my favourite. Bunky Green only got to lead the band on a couple of records from what I can see. And you can see this one's on VJ. I really like this record. It's a little bit less hard on the ears than some other saxophone music from maybe Eric Dolphy or John Coltrane. This is much more mellow and controlled and pretty. Donald Byrd gets a couple of songs that he absolutely smashes it. And the one that stood out to me was the second last track, which is called Don't Blame Me. It's about 9 minutes long, and it is pretty much two Donald Byrd solos, and they're beautiful. Yeah, really interesting jazz record, and just goes to show just how much amazing music was being released in that period. And this Japanese pressing is glorious, and I love that sleeve. All right, so from jazz that I would expect most of you will have to go and look up and then decide you like, that's my bet, to something probably all of you know that's very different. This is the Japanese 12 inches of Kylie Minogue's first two singles, I Should Be So Lucky and Gotta Be Certain. Japanese presses, sleeves and everything look beautiful. For those of you who curate quirky pieces of Australian, heritage, those are two that you might not have seen before. So we've gone from jazz to Kylie Minogue. Now we're going to go to this. The Exotic Sounds of Latin by Marty Denny. This is the Japanese first press of this record from 1961 on red translucent vinyl. And it sounds great. Played it a few minutes ago. Now, Marty Denny was an American multi-instrumentalist who is credited in some respects for inventing the genre that is exotica, that marimba, conga kind of. Is it too unfair to say cheesy? I mean, I listened to the first three tracks of this, and it didn't sound cheesy to me at all. It's quite funky. He played until he was 93 and had his last concert 3 weeks before he passed away. So this guy was a legend. Love the sleeve. So as you might imagine, this selection, and it's because it's very early Japanese, there's no English whatsoever. The only way that you can see what the songs are is because they're on English on the label. So you get Quiet Village, Sumalau, Jungle Flower, Manila. So you get a selection of his more kind of bossa nova / Latin sounds, clue being in the name. But it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And it's an unusual piece. I doubt many of you will have seen that before. Okay, so we just had Japanese first press. Now we have a Jamaican first press. Now this record is awesome. This is On the Beach with the Paragons. One of the great vocal reggae bands of the 60s. They were on the Treasure Island label. There's a little bit of damage on that side, which went on to become Trojan. And the reason I know this record and that I was so excited to pick up another copy is because track 4 on side 1 is called The Tide is High. And that went on to be a monster hit by Blondie, as probably all of you know. But the original lo-fi kind of playful Paragons release is lovely as well. So there you go, Paragons on the Beach, Jamaican first press. Now this is a UK press, and it is called Uncut Funk, and this is a best of Parliament. Now Parliament are one of the iconic funk bands of the 70s, but their recorded output is kind of daunting on the Casablanca label, so it's still got the original Casablanca. You can see the Casablanca label. But this is a compilation of the best of about their first 6 or 7 records. So you get Up for the Downstroke, Chocolate City, P-Funk, Mothership Connection, which is Star Child, which is the key to that whole amazing record. Give Up the Funk, Tear the Roof Off the Sucker. I think that was on Mothership Connection as well. Do That Stuff, Bop Gain, Flashlight. Yeah, this is, I haven't seen this. So you can see on the bottom here, it says Parliament's Greatest Hits. The Bomb. Very unusual piece. Yeah, if anyone knows more about it, I haven't been able to find out much about it, but there you go. A very interesting record. So we've had Jamaican first press, we've had Japanese, we've had UK. Now we've got Brazilian. This is the Brazilian first press of Realce. I think that's how it's pronounced, by Gilberto Gil from 1979. Now, this is an interesting record. There he is on the back sleeve. From what I understand, he is somewhat of, there's the gatefold, of a kind of Brazilian legend. And in the late 70s, he recorded a series of Brazilian influenced, almost disco, but not disco. It's not that, but it is very danceable, very commercial. It's on Spotify. Give it a go. What I would say is don't trust the first couple of tunes. It's as it goes on, it becomes more diverse and more interesting, and the acoustic instrumentation is, you can tell immediately that South American influence. It's very happy, very pleasing music, and a really nice pressing. My first and only, so far anyway, Brazilian press. But I've had a few of you ask if I'll get any Brazilian music, so I thought I'd pass that one on. I told you, this is crazy. Now we've got a folk classic from the mid-60s. This is Doc Watson and Son. There's the story of the record on the listening notes on the back. Doc Watson being a stalwart of that folk label Vanguard Records, which is maybe the greatest folk label that, there ever was. Most of these songs are standards. So you get The Little Stream of Whiskey, Mama Blues. A lot of it is, I know that it's described as folk, but a lot of it is quite bluesy. And that's, I think, because of the harmonica playing. But also, Doc Watson's son, Merle Watson, had only, this astonished me. I kind of, when I read this, I went, can't be true. Had apparently only began playing guitar 8 months before this record was recorded. And when you listen to it, you will not believe that. I know I find it hard to believe. But there are also songs where the harmonica playing almost takes on characterizations. So they will mimic the sound of a child crying, or they will mimic the sound of a train, or the sound of soldiers marching. There's a song on here called The Faithful Soldier where you get that sense. The final song, Gonna Lay Down My Old Guitar, was an old Delmore Brothers song from the 30s. And so you do get a sense of that down-home kind of American folk blues. Very interesting record and beautiful Japanese press. Quite hard to get, that one. Now, we're getting into kind of the realms of Shortcuts royalty with these two records. I'm going to show you them both together. This is Bill Evans' Undercurrent, and that's actually the front sleeve. It's one of the great front sleeves, and that is Bill Evans' Interplay. I've pulled these two out because Bill Evans, his most famous records, he plays in a trio, and he is, I think, undoubtedly one of the great jazz pianists. But here, he plays in a duo with Jim Hall on guitar, and I think create some of the most beautiful guitar piano interplay I think's ever been recorded. And it's really nice to listen to on pristine Japanese vinyl. But I think I like this one even more. So this is Interplay. This is where he played with, is it 4 or 5 other musicians? 1, 2, 3, 4 other musicians. Freddie Hubbard, Percy Heath, Jim Hall, again, and Philly Joe Jones. And on the sleeve, on the front, it says, "For the first time, the great jazz pianist, Bill Evans, is heard in a new context as leader of a group larger than his customary trio. Evans' interplay with his 4 colleagues here, each of them one of Bill's personal favourites on their instrument, creates a most unusual and remarkable album." Now, all of the songs on here are jazz standards that I've heard before, but I really enjoy the interpretations here. Freddie Hubbard was really young when this was recorded and plays through a mute, clearly sounds like a mute on his trumpet quite a lot. But the star of the show is Jim Hall. On Undercurrent, Jim Hall is quite considered and quite mellow. Man, on occasion here, he rocks it out, which I quite like. Anyway, if you don't know this one, it's well worth exploring. Not quite as popular as Waltz for Debbie or Portrait in Jazz, but I'm a big fan. All right, we got one more soul record that I want to talk about. We have been on a Millie Jackson tirade this last few months. This one's one of our hardest to find. This is Millie Jackson's debut album, and it's absolutely amazing. I love Millie Jackson. Just top quality soul music. Really, as good as it gets. Spectacular soul record. And I'm going to finish with this, because I think this record's a little bit underappreciated for such a famous participant. This is Pretty Groovy by Chet Baker. So this was released in, I want to say 58, 59, maybe even 57. No, it was late 50s. And was a compilation of a number of recordings from the mid 50s, and then with a couple of later ones kind of tagged on. And it's just beautiful. There's no word for it. It is, when you think of that mellow, feel-good jazz that is perfect as background music for you know, a quiet Sunday afternoon or a beer or whatever, it is that to a T. And it's so tasteful. I just think it's lovely. Chet Baker, who has occupied the #1 trumpet spot on all of the major jazz polls, has been heard with almost all of the top names in modern jazz. Jerry Mulligan, Stan Getz, Shelly Manne. Here's Chet again in pages flashback from earlier days in his recording discography. So he'd obviously started to hit the big time, and they pulled from the vaults and grabbed a few things. The Chet Baker Quartet, Russ Freeman, Carson Smith, Larry Brunker, and Chet. Now he does play with Bill Perkins on a few of these, which I really like. So, and there's a guitarist who I've never heard before, who's really cool on this. And why pretty and groovy? That is exactly what it says in the tin. It is so lovely, and then at times you just want to go like that. Anyway, Pretty Groovy, Chet Baker. I think somewhat underappreciated and rather great. So there you have it. The Paragons, Millie Jackson, Parliament, Bill Evans, Chet Baker. What else? Kylie Minogue. Bunky Green. Oh my gosh. What a list. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. And price list will go out 9 p.m. Wednesday 27th. Email me at shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com if you'd like to receive the price list. If you have any thoughts or comments or anything, please, as always, ping me or subscribe or send me a note or drop me a comment. I love all that. And thanks so much for watching if you stayed this long. All right. Bye.